Hello everyone, in this video we're going to learn about Unity's interface. If you're opening up Unity for the first time, you will have this default layout, and if for some reason you don't, or you've been messing with the interface by dragging and dropping these panels here and there, you can just click on this layout drop down and select default, and it will restore Unity's default layout. And if you want to select any other layout, you can do so by clicking on this same drop down and selecting any of these 5 preset layouts. And if you want to create your own layout, you can just do so by dragging and dropping these panels anywhere you'd like, and when you are happy with the layout you want, just click on save layout and it will ask you for a name. Just type anything you want and there you have it, your game's layout. Now anytime you change your default layout or you messed up your default layout, you can select the games from this drop down. And if you want to delete a layout, you can just click on delete layout and select the layouts you want to delete. For example, I want to delete this game. And also if by accident you've deleted, let's say, the default layout, in the drop down list you won't have this layout. You can revert this to the factory settings to get back that default layout. Click on continue and there you have it, it restored the default layout and you can select it from here. So that's how you can change layouts. Now I'm assuming you are using the same default layout as me. In the center of the screen we have scene view. Here you can edit your level. This tool provides visual feedback of where each and every object is present in the scene, and we can use this tab to easily set the position, rotation and scale of any object present in our level. As you can see, there is this camera icon present in our scene. This is our camera and we can select it by left clicking on this, and you see this gizmo appears. So I can use this tool to move the camera anywhere in the scene I want. So as you can see, I can place it here, I can place it there, but I'm not going to do that. Also we can set the rotation of the object, and in order to understand how to set the rotation of this object, we have to know about this toolbar. This toolbar contains all the tools that we can use to manipulate objects in the scene tab. The first one is the hand tool. This is used to pan the scene view. We can also use this tool directly by right clicking on the scene view and dragging while we have selected any other tool than this hand tool. So if I select this move tool, I can also pan using the hand tool by right clicking and dragging, as you can see. This next tool is rotate tool, so I can use this to rotate the object. As you can see, the camera is rotated. The next tool is scale tool. There is no point in scaling the camera as you cannot see the effect of this tool. I will create a game object in a moment to show you its effect. So move on to next tool. We have this rect tool. This tool is basically used for UI. When we design our UI interface, I'll show you how this tool works. And this is the combined tool, which consists of 3 tools: move, rotate and scale. So this tool is all those 3 tools combined in one. So you can move, scale and rotate using this tool. Okay, the next is if you want to add your custom tools, which we will not be covering in this series. So this next tool just shows you the list of all the custom editor tools that you have. Currently I have none, so it shows me no custom tools available. The next is the pivot and center button. Clicking on this button, you can switch to center and pivot. I'll show you what it does in a bit. Also this global and local. So on the left hand side of the screen you can see the hierarchy view. The hierarchy consists of list of all the objects present in the scene. So currently we have only one object present in the scene, and which is our camera. And notice that we can select object by both clicking on the object itself in the scene view and by selecting it in the hierarchy. And you can see details related to this object in the inspector. Now before I tell you about inspector, I need to tell you a few things about how Unity works. In Unity's terminology, each object in the scene is known as a game object, and a game object is composed of different components which describe its behavior and characteristics. So for example, this main camera consists of these 3 components: transform, camera and audio listener, and that's what the inspector does. It displays the details about selected game object. So right now we have selected the main camera and it tells you what are the components attached to this game object and all the details associated with it, like tag layers, etc. In Unity, everything present inside scene is game object, and game objects are composed of components. So we can create our own objects Like I have created this game object, and one thing to note is that by default every object game object in the scene will have this transform component, because in order to be present in the scene the game object has to have a location, rotation and a scale. So that's what the transform component represents. Since each game object is just composed of components, and components are what that defines the behavior of the game object, I can simply attach a camera component to this game object, and now this will be our camera. And if I just turn this off by unchecking this checkbox, then the camera that is active is this game object one. And I can show you that by if I click this off, then in the game view it will see no cameras are rendering. And the game tab's job is to display the currently active camera. So right now there is no camera active in the scene, so that's why it's displaying no cameras rendering. And if I enable the camera again, it will start rendering. So this game tab shows what the actual player will see while playing our game. And also we can restrict aspect ratio of our game using this drop down. So if we want, we can restrict our game to 16:10 or 16:9. We're going to leave it at 16:9. And there is another tab which is the asset store. If you're not using the assets that I have provided, you can search for different 2D assets here on the asset store, but we're not going to be using it. I'll just remove it. So yeah, that's how game objects work. They work by attaching components, and these components are what that defines the behavior. So moving on the bottom of the screen you can see the project tab. This project tab shows the actual directory structure of our project in the computer. So if I just right click on this and show it in Explorer, you can clearly see that the structure on the right is similar to the structure on the left. Now don't worry about this meta file. This is just the metadata associated with the folder, and we do not need to worry about it. Also you can see the audio has music and effects, and inside it we have files which we imported in our previous video. Okay, so that's what the project tab is for. And moving on, this console tab is used for debugging purposes. I'll show you how to use this console tab when we'll do the actual coding. So let me just tell you about this pivot in global, what these do. Let me just drag a sprite in the scene view. So if I drag it here, I have created this game object with two components, transform component and sprite renderer. And this sprite renderer component is what is rendering this image on the scene. So as you can see, I can move using the move tool as I previously showed you, and I can rotate using the rotate tool, and I can scale using the scale tool. So that's what the scale does. It stretches our object in the direction of the axis. So if I stretch it in the x-axis, it will stretch in that axis. And one thing to note is that you can switch between these tools by using the QWERTY shortcut. So if you press Q, you will have hand tool, W transform tool, E for rotate, R for scale tool, T for rect tool, and combine tool. You can press Y. Okay, so as you can see, this object is rotated. Now what pivot does is that, as you can see from the tooltip, the tool handle is placed at the active object's pivot point. So the pivot point of this object is at the center, which I can also show you. If we click on this sprite editor, you see this is the pivot of this object. So if I drag this at the bottom and apply this, now if I select this, the tool handle will be placed at the pivot, which is at the bottom of the sprite. Now center places the tool handle at the center of the object. Since we do not want to mess with this object's pivot, I'm going to change it back to where it was. So it was roughly here. Apply, and our pivot and center are in the same position. Now what this local and global switch does is, if I select local, it places the tool handle relative to the game object's local rotation. Right now you can see that the yellow, which is the y-axis for this object in this direction, and if I select global, you'll see the global y-axis for this object, which for all objects remains same. So if I select camera, and if I rotate the camera, and since we have selected the global rotation here, the camera places the tool handle with respect to the global rotation. And if I change this to local, it will show the local rotation. And here you can, at the bottom right of the scene view, you can see the camera preview, which shows what camera is seeing. So this actual view will be replicated in the game view. Now you can also enable the snapping if you are in global rotation, and you can toggle the snapping by clicking on this button with a magnet. If I try to move this object, now it will move in the increments of 1. This is the grid which it is moving in, as you can see. And you can adjust the setting here, grids and snap setting. You can change the grid size to 2, and now it moves by increments of 2, as you can see. So hopefully you've learned a few things from this video, and if you still find Unity's interface intimidating, then you'll get better as we progress more with this series. Thank you.